Hi everyone, today we'll talk about creating dependent LOVs or prompts in OTBI reports and BI reports. We'll also talk about adding filter on OTBI prompts, some miscellaneous topics like removing scroll bar in the table output, how to include or exclude columns in the output, and last topic would be how to create a BI report from OTBI uh, report query. So once you create a OTBI report, it automatically generates a query which can be found in SQL issued in the advanced tab. So we will be looking into that. So the first topic today is how to create the dependent LOV in a BI report. So the common navigation is going to tools, reports and analytics. Then we'll go to browse catalog. We'll go to new. We'll create a data model, and in the diagram tab, we click on plus. We'll select the SQL query. So we have to give four things here: name, data source, type of SQL, and the SQL query. So name is, I've just given an example, ABC application DB FSCM. If you're creating, this changes according to like which module or which offering you're creating it for. It could be finance, it could be SCM, it could be CRM. That depends. So this changes, application DB underscore FSCM or finance or respective like CRM. That changes. You have to pick accordingly. Then the type of SQL is standard SQL, and in the SQL query section, I have written just a small query like AP invoices all. So I'm selecting vendor ID, invoice number, invoice date, and invoice amount and amount paid. So total I've taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns from AP invoices all. Okay, and here I'm taking as vendor ID as P underscore vendor ID with a colon, and invoice number equal to P invoice number. Okay, so these are my two parameters. As soon as you put a colon in front of it and click on OK, it automatically creates two checkboxes, and it asks to, if we want to, it asks for an option for if we want to add these two parameters. So we'll click on both and click on OK. Now in the diagram tab, we also have parameter section. Whenever you click on diagram tab, you have 6 sections there, one for SQL, one for the data. Inside data sets you have all the SQLs written. Then you have parameters, you also have let me show how does that look. So you have here diagram tab, you have a structure tab, and you have a data tab, right? So in the diagram tab you'll also have data sets. Then you'll have, first is parameters, then you'll have an LOV for each of parameter, then you'll have a flex field, then you will also have a bursting query, so you'll have a bursting section. Then you also have for event triggers. Event triggers is nothing but in the older SQLs or in the older reports, we used to have what do you call that, program units. So whatever we wrote in the program units, when a certain event occurs, you want to write a piece of code, so that can be written in the event triggers. Okay, and bursting, all of us know that what bursting is, and the flex wheel, these things we'll discuss later. So in the you have a diagram, structure and data tab. So in this you go to now, after clicking on this OK, you go to this parameter section, and in the parameter section these are the things that are present. So first thing is, you have a name, you have a data type of the parameter, you have a default value, you will have a parameter type, and mandatory or not, you have a checkbox here. So you'll be having something like this, checkboxes. Okay. Apart from that, you'll also have a display label, text field size, and options. So we'll discuss everything. Like you have two parameters here. My data type would be string here. You can give any default value. Um, Parameter type is text here. Okay. So what value it takes is that is data type, and the parameter type here is text, meaning it has three types: DMT, which is data, menu, and text. Sorry, date, menu, and text. So parameter types, this has three values: date, menu, and text. So you can either give any value, like a numeric value or anything, and you can select text input here, the parameter type. If it's a date one, then you will select date, and if it's an LOV, then you have to select menu. So later we'll be changing this to menu. So because I've selected text here, my here my text field size has come. So how much, like how many characters that it should accept. Okay. And display label is nothing but what, what is the parameter, how the parameter should be, beside that what text should be present. Like if you have, for example, this is my vendor ID, and I want the user to enter the vendor. Okay, so select vendor and select invoice. Okay, so you can write select vendor name or whatever respective you can write. So this is the display label for the user. This is shown, this is what shown when you go to data type, and when you want to run the query, this is what is shown. Okay, so I have given for both select vendor and select invoice. Then you have to do it separately. I've just written it together. Then after that, the text, after the text field size, you also have options. Text field contains the comma separated values. So, and the second one is refresh after parameters on change. So this is very important in this, because it's a dependent uh, LOV. If one value changes, then accordingly the next value, the dependent LOV, should, all the values in the dependent LOV should also change. So, and text field contains comma separated value, meaning that a single text field can have multiple values. It should be able to accept multiple values separated by commas. So if you want the user to include certain such values, then you can check this checkbox, and this we will be using it later. So right now, again, you also have a LOV section here, right? Once you create a parameter, you select all these things. We'll go to LOV section and we'll click on plus. Now I have created one LOV. First LOV is new LOV vendor, and my type is SQL query. Again, my data source is application DB FSCM. Now I am writing a SQL query here. I am selecting my vendor name and vendor ID from POZ supplier suite, where a vendor ID is in 1, 2, 3. You can give like any vendor IDs here. You just select it and write the values here. Now first thing, whenever you do a LOV, the first name, which is, you can give anything, that whatever I want to display, because see, I have written the display label as vendor, select vendor, right? So what I want to select, like show the user, is the vendor name, whereas in the backend it will be taking vendor ID, because vendor ID, he won't be able to like select the vendor ID, right, from the backend. For the user, it's ambiguous. So instead, select whatever he, it is visible, whatever is visible to him or whatever is easy to him. So vendor name is easy to select, right? So the first column should be taken, whatever is easy. For example, if you have invoice number or invoice type name, if you want a certain invoice type name, then that is easier for to select, right? Or instead of invoice ID, that is easier, right? So right now I'm asking the user, like I'm giving the vendor name for the user to select. In the front end, whenever the parameter appears, it appears as select vendor, then you have a LOV there, and all the vendor names appear. Because this is my first, in the LOV query, I have taken the first one as vendor name, and the second one is vendor ID from POZ supplier sir, and where the vendor ID is some value. You can hard code or whatever the where condition that you want to put, you can put there. Now right after making this change, now I am changing my text to menu for vendor ID. Initially this was text, now I am changing it to menu because I have a LOV now. Okay. So once I change it to menu, my display label is there, and once I change here this value to from text to menu, the next values that appear, they change. For example, for now vendor ID, I have changed my parameter type from text to menu. Now all these things will change. The text field size, the display label will be same, but the text field size and the options, they will be changed. How? I'll show you. So instead of text field size, now I have a menu or LOV. So my LOV name should be written here. Field appears. Whatever I've created, I'll give the LOV name. The number of values to be displayed in a list, like at a time how many LOV values you want to display, that thing also comes here. I've just given 100 here, and the options initially were for text field, it was like comma separated values should be included in the text field, and refresh other parameters on change. So for menu, now two things have changed. Because my menu will have multiple values, so it should be allowed for multiple selection. It can have it can select all values, meaning if null values are passed, then it should be taken, otherwise all values should be passed. Okay. The last one is refresh other parameters on change, because the data in the next LOV changes whenever the first parameter value or first thing changes. Okay. So for dependent LOV, this is very important to check this one, and this thing also is because it has to take all the values. Or if you are using null values, then if you are using this null values pass, then you should have we should write NVL. So here instead of in invoice number, I'll just write NVL of invoice number comma this one. Okay, I'll just show it later. Now I'll save the data model. In the LOV section, we'll create another LOV. Same thing for the invoice number. So new LOV invoice. This is for the invoice number. I'm taking the type as SQL query and application DB FSCM. The data source is there, and now I'm taking invoice number from AP invoices all, where vendor ID is equivalent to P vendor ID. What I did, so what I'm doing is, first of all, I created a main query from AP invoices all. I had two parameters, P invoice num and P vendor ID. The next thing is I created one for vendor ID. I've taken this vendor ID from POZ suppliers V. Okay, where it was already hard coded. The vendor ID was hard coded, or you can write whatever SQL, like if you want for only certain type of suppliers the vendor ID should come, so you can write a where condition here. Okay, so I've taken vendor name and vendor ID here from POZ supplier suite. The next thing is, now this should be dependent on this the PO, because I'm creating a dependent LOV, so all the values in this should be dependent on this. Okay, so what I'm doing for the next one is I'm selecting an invoice number from AP invoices all, same table as this, but there my vendor ID is dependent on this parameter value. Okay, so and what are the values which are taken for this parameter are from this one, this query. select vendor name and vendor ID from POZ suppliers fee, where vendor ID is in XYZ, or you can select a particular number or whatever, like what range of values you want to select. So I hope this is so. My second one, I'm taking it from the same table, but there the vendor ID is dependent on the first parameter, and now this parameter I'm taking it from uh, the value from POZ supplier B. Okay, and in the front end only vendor name will be visible. In the back end it will take vendor ID. Now after this is done, um, I've created my dependent LOV here. Again, for the parameter type for will be changed from text to menu. Display label is same thing. I've kept it same, and now few things have appeared like LOV. It's there, and new LOV invoice. I've given the name here. Now the data in the second LOV is dependent on the first parameter, which is P vendor ID, whose value is again dependent on the first LOV. Okay, that is the whole concept. So number of values to display in the list, I have taken 100. Now in the second one you can create multiple ones, because reason for this is, see, if you select multiple values in the first one, then at the same time taking multiple values won't be dependent, because I am for this query it will be taking only one value at a time, right? So for here I cannot do the multiple selection, but here I can do it. Okay, it can select all. You can select all values or null values and refresh other parameters on change. So meaning whenever there will be a change in uh, because my P invoice num, or rather the LOV in the second parameter is dependent on the LOV in the first parameter. So whenever this value changes, meaning whenever the vendor name changes, um, whenever I select vendor name uh, in the parameter section, accordingly my invoice number also changes. Okay, so that's what this one does. Refresh other parameters on change. Now I'll save it. I'll go to data tab, and we have two here: select vendor and select invoices. That's what I've given here, right? Display labels. Select invoice and select where is that? Yeah, select vendor and select invoice. So that's how this appears, and you have here a LOV for both. Okay, so my invoice number changes in accordance to the vendor name. Okay, so here the vendor name appears because I've taken in the front end the vendor name appears, back end it takes vendor ID. Okay, so the invoice changes in according to the vendor name, and this both of them also have instead of like single value, you can also select all values for the second one, not for the first one. Oh sorry, for the first one also, because if we select all, so if I selected this one all and also I have selected this one all, then for every single vendor ID, whatever the dependent invoice number is there, that will be shown. Okay, and here if I select all, error comes, and in case of error what we do, we'll just write a invoice number and we will write a NVL here. In the main query just write a NVL. Invoice number is equal to we'll take NVL and we'll add the number, the parameter here, and we'll replace it with, in case if it's 0, then I'll whatever the value is there, that will be equivalent to the same value here. Okay, so I've written invoice name. So in case the value being invoice number that is being passed, where is the invoice number? So okay, this is my invoice number. From this one, if this is 0, okay, this is my LOV query for P invoice number. Okay, so if this is 0, and then it will just take it from the invoice number one, because I've written the same one. Okay. uh, okay, what else? um, okay, the next one is creating the dependent LOV. Here again, just give me a moment. The next one is creating a dependent LOV or prompt in the OTBI. So in OTBI reports, we don't have parameters, we have prompts, right? So in the prompt, if I want to give an LOV, how do you do it? So we'll go to Tools, Reports, Analytics, Browse Catalog. We'll create new and we'll go to Analysis. After new, you have to go to Analysis. Here, scroll the subject area. Uh, the subject area name is payment payment invoice, payable invoices, transaction real time. And in the left side subject area, you have supplier. In the supplier, you will select 6 columns here. One is supplier type and supplier. From the invoice details, you will go to general information and you will select invoice number and invoice date, and in the invoice amounts, we'll select invoice amount and invoice amount paid. Now we'll go to prompts tab. We'll click on plus. So once you click on plus, you have 4 options. First one is the column prompt, second one is the currency prompt, third one is the image prompt, and fourth one is the variable prompt. Okay, we'll select the column prompt. We'll click on both supplier type and supplier. Okay, you just repeat it for supplier type and supplier and invoice number. I'll show you one by one how do you do it. You have 2 sections there, definition and display section. So in the definition section, what you do, soon as you click on column prompt and then click on the column, like which column name you want to do it on. So I'm doing it for 3 things: supplier type, supplier, and invoice number. So let's say now what is my reason for doing this is that invoice number should be dependent on supplier. Okay, and this should be dependent, supplier should be dependent on, here I've written it, invoice number should be dependent on the supplier should be dependent on supplier type. Okay, so first of all, I'll create for supplier type. As soon as you click on the first supplier type, you will have these things. We have seen this, how to create a column prompt. First one is prompt for column, so it takes this one. Second one is label. Label is nothing but I've just written S type here, but you just write whatever you want to show the name as. So supplier type you can write for the user. Okay, it's the description that what needs to be entered in the LOV. Okay, so you have a description. Then there is an option for custom label, if you are creating a custom label or not. Okay, then operator is equal to, or you can choose whatever it is. So what I want is the supplier type, this is my label, this is supplier type should be entered, and the value should be equal to, or it should be in choice list. Okay, that's nothing but again a LOV. So my user input should be choice list. After that, I have to make sure that in the below you have options. You have 5 options there. One is require user input. Second one is just let me see if I have written all. Yeah, the first one, in the options you have 5 checkboxes. First one is require user input. Second one is limit values by, and third one is include all column values, and fourth one is enable user to select multiple values. Fifth one is enable user to enter values or manually enter values, meaning the user can manually enter values. Okay, so for this one you have to make sure that required user input is present. Okay, otherwise if the user is not made to because there is a dependency, so we have to make sure that the user uh, includes some value here. Okay, then in the supplier, you also again you'll go through the same thing, you will write the same thing here, and in the options you have to make sure user input required and limit values by supplier type here, because my supplier name should be dependent on supplier type. Again, for the invoice number, I'm doing same thing, require a user input, that should be checked. Limit supplier values by supplier, I'm sorry, just a second. Yeah, because invoice number is dependent on supplier and supplier name is dependent on supplier type. So here I'm taking supplier type, and whereas here I'm taking supplier. Okay, so this is dependent on this is dependent on this. That's how you create a dependency creation here. So other check boxes are include all column values. Yes, I want to include it. And enable user to select multiple values. Yes, he can select multiple values. Now the last one is not checked, that enable user to enter values, because I want, if the user enters in accordance to his wish, then there might be a spelling mistake or wrong value entered. So I just want the user to pick up the values, and that should be from the list, from the choice list. Then he should not be able to enter the values manually, right? So this checkbox is not checked, and there should be a dependency. So first of all, I'll select the supplier type, that gives me all the values of supplier. Okay, now depending upon the supplier name, I also select all the invoice numbers. So this is how the dependency is created. Now, as I said, below the definition section there is a display section. There that's what I've written here, that this is how the dependency is created. Now in the results tab, in the table area output, there is something called as view properties or table properties. We'll just expand the width. I have just expanded the width to 100 pixel. I'll click on OK just to see the output how it looks in without scrolling. Now we'll go to the symbol on the top in the results tab. It's given just beside the bar one, and we'll click on default alter to get the preview. This is the preview symbol. Okay, and I'll give supplier type, supplier name and invoice number in the sequence, and I click on OK, and the output comes. Okay, so what output comes, dependent on, I have to give 3 prompts: supplier type, supplier number and invoice number. Based on that, for that particular supplier type, for that particular supplier, for that particular invoice number, all these 3 values plus invoice amount and invoice amount paid, these 5 values, and invoice date. Okay, all these values will be present. The next one is to add filter on OTBI prompts. So let's say I'll give you an example. The same analysis. So if I want to remove excess starting values from the input in the choice list for the supplier type, so I made a choice list here and I want to remove all the values of supplier type starting with XX. Okay, so what you'll do is I'll add filter in the for the OTBI prompt, S type prompt, supplier type OTBI prompt, I'll just add a filter. Okay, what you basically do is in the previous analysis, just click on edit under the analysis name. We'll go to criteria tab. Here we have in the selected column area, you have all the column names. So before the supplier type, you have this symbol, setting symbol. We'll click on filter. Now the filter section opens. Here click on plus, okay, sorry, either this is one of the method, otherwise go to the filter section, this is present just below the, where is that, selected column area section. You have two things: either you can go to here and click on setting tab and go to filter, otherwise you can also go to filter section and click on this symbol and select the column that you want to put filter on. So now I have this column name, then operator is not like, and value is XX percentage. So I don't want to include all the values which are starting from XX in the prompt which has this supplier type prompt. Okay. Second one is again, I don't want to include all the supplier type values which are starting from seller. Okay. So I've created two prompts. Now in the results tab, output data, if I go to results tab, the output data will have values, it has data without S type and sellers, without S type as values as sellers or starting from X's. But if you go to the, this is my preview symbol and it's in the results tab. If you go to preview symbol and you will go to click on default, here S type will have both values, meaning it will also having sellers. Okay, so what's happening here is prompt data will still doesn't have the filters applied properly. Okay, so for that what we do is we'll go to prompts tab, click on the existing X type prompt. Okay, there is an entry already, and because I have created in the previous one, I have created an entry for S type supplier type, so there should be an existing entry there, and we'll click on edit. Now in the options sections there is something called as, because we have selected user input as choice list, right? So after all these check boxes we have something called as choice list values. There the value is SQL results. Okay, so in the what you do is, just let me show it in the prompts tab, go to the existing selected existing supplier type prompt entry, click on that and click on edit. The edit prompt window opens. Then we'll go to option sections, we'll have choice list values there, that how the choice list values are being picked up. So there it is SQL results. Okay, so click on that and you will have a SQL. Now this is my SQL. You have a select statement that is fetching the current results. Okay, so now select supplier type from payable invoices transactional date time. Fetch first, this is not required, but what I want to do is like put a where condition here. Now what I'll add here is where supplier dot supplier type not like seller, and supplier dot supplier type not like XX. Okay, and after that I'll click OK. So you just have to add the where condition after the from thing, before fetch. Okay, now again if I click OK and save, and I'll go to preview in the results tab and click on default page. This time my all the data which is coming in the output, meaning the S type won't have XX and the seller data. So instead of putting if you put a filter, so let's say what am I doing here is I have a parameter or prompt which is supplier type, and I want to filter certain data like starting from XX and starting from seller. Then even if I put a filter on that, even if I create a filter, irrespective of which method, right from criteria tab or the selected column area, you go to you put a filter here. Otherwise you will go to filter section and put a filter like this. It doesn't matter, but in the results tab the output won't have it. But if you go to preview and you'll get a in the default or any output format, if you get that, it will that particular prompt will still have that data. So instead of that, you will just go to prompt, click on the entry created, prompt entry created, click on edit, go to option section, and you'll have a choice list value. Click on SQL results, you have a SQL statement there. Write a where condition for that particular, for not picking up, like I have given supplier type not like seller, and what else, XX. That's what you do. So there are few more miscellaneous just a moment. There are few more miscellaneous topics, like how to exclude, include columns in the output. Like in the results tab, just give me a moment. In the results tab, you will go to preview. This is my symbol pro preview. You will click on default, and we'll give supplier type, supplier, and invoice number from the previous one, and click on OK. The results come. Now, once the results come, I'm just using the previous OTBI analysis I created for dependent LOV. This is what I've created, right? I've created 3 prompts, so I'm using the same thing. Now, once my output comes after giving all these values, supplier type, supplier name, and invoice number, the results come, and I'm using the preview option for this. Either in the results, you can do it after using default this one preview option, or directly in the results tab as well, wherever. Just click on the column name. Okay, it will have a table results tab, or the preview one. You want to see the preview in a particular format, like text or PDF or whatever format. So you will have a results tab, you will have column names 1, 2, 3, whatever the number of columns. So click on the column name, okay, right click on it. After that, you have an option for excluding the columns, and for the including the columns, same thing. You can just right click on any column name and include column. Apart from this, there is one more option, right? Let's say you have, this is my table output, you will also have a edit one here, edit option. So click on that, and you can drag drop the column name from this section to the excluded section. You can drag drop it to table prompt section. You can drag drop it to what else we have, to section, we have to section, to prompt, then you have to excluded, and to table prompt. These are the 4 values. So if you click on edit, that also, from that option also you can do this. I think we've seen this example before in the previous slides. Now, how to remove the scroll bar, this also I think I've discussed previously. We'll just go to result tab, and table area, you have table properties. See, this depends, like some people call it this symbol as view properties, both are same. We'll go to style tab, and there in the data viewing section, you have 2 things, fixed headers with scrolling content. Meaning, let's say you don't want to so whenever you want to have a fixed array, this is my data output, this is my table output, and you don't want to have a scroll bars here and here, then what you do is you just click fixed headers with scrolling content, and you increase the size of that height and width. So you just increase the size here so that the scroll bars won't come. But if you want to limit only certain number of rows should be appearing on one page, then what you use is content paging. So here I'm using content paging. Paging controls I've taken as top, and rows per page. So if you have like let's say 50 or 500, whatever, I'm taking 50 here. So let's say you have a requirement where you want to print only 50 rows in the table output, and then you have a graph here or a pie chart, whatever, and then the next rest of the all the columns should be the rows should be printed 50 per page. Then you will be using content paging. Okay, and otherwise if you want a fixed header output with the scrolling content, then you can just use this option. And without scrolling content, if you want to do it, then use this option only, but just increase the height and width. Now if you select this rows per page, this is how in the output in the table area there is two arrows that appear, and you will have rows 1 to 50, like whatever number you select, to navigate. So if you want to navigate to next page, just click on this arrow. Okay. The next one is creating the BI report using the OTBI query. Just give me a moment. Okay, so what we do usually is, you have a data source. Whenever you create a query, you have a data source. So we pick either application DB underscore FSCM or finance or CRM, depending upon what is my source. Okay, which tables I need to access, from which offering I need to access, that depends. So depending upon that, you either choose application DB underscore FSCM or CRM or finance. Okay, but here my data source should be Oracle BI, meaning I am taking a query from OTBI report. So where does this OTBI report will have query? We'll see. First of all, go to tools, reports analytics, and browse catalog wherever it is shared. So in my OTBI reports it's shared. Open it. How do you open it? Click on edit under the report name. Now we'll have 4 tabs there: CRAP, criteria, results, advanced, and prompts tab. So in the advanced tab, we'll have 2 things: SQL issued and analysis XML. We previously have seen how to use the analysis XML and copy the entire whatever the selected subject area and the rest of the stuff, like any column formatting and everything. You can do it by selecting the analysis XML and pasting it into another report. Okay. But we have to make sure whenever we use analysis XML, we have to make sure that before copying it, we have to make sure that same subject area has to be selected. Same subject area and same column names have to be selected. Okay. Okay. Now in the advanced tab, we also, apart from analysis XML, we also have SQL issued. So whatever we do in OTBI, the automatic SQL is created for that below the analysis XML part. Okay, so now I copy the data, whatever is present in the SQL issued section, and we'll just put on Notepad++. We'll delete everything before the select statement. So it will have some more lines. So we delete everything before the select statement. Second thing is to go to, now I am creating a SQL query for my BI report. New data model, go to diagram tab, click on plus, click the SQL query. We'll give the name. Here important thing is, type of SQL is standard SQL as usual, but the data source should be here Oracle BIE. Okay, Oracle BIEE. This is important, that you should choose Oracle BIE here. The next thing is, whatever you copied the query from in the Notepad++, just paste it here and make sure that now the new query will have S_0, S_1, S_2, all these things. So what are these? I'll show you. these are nothing but the column names. Okay, so now because in the OTBI report I know which column comes after which, because I have selected columns one after another, right? So you have to make sure that if you want to make like I want my user to know the column names, right? So what you need to do, you have to replace this s underscore 0, s underscore 1, s underscore 2 in the new query. You can do it in the notepad plus plus itself. Okay, how do you do? Otherwise you can you do it in the front end as well. How do you do it? We can go to structure tab. There you have display name and tag name. Okay, so you can change both display name, like for S2 it's invoice number, so I can change the display name as invoice number, also the tag name, and save. Otherwise we can also go to diagram tab. There every single column will have a settings column. There you will go to properties, and in the properties you can change the display name. So my S1 column is invoice date, so I can change the display name there. So there are two options, one is in the diagram tab, one is in the structure tab. Structure you can change both tag name and display name. Here in the diagram tab, just beside the all the columns listed, you'll also have a settings icon. So we'll click on settings icon, go to properties and change the display name here. So these things you have to. So now you'll have a SQL query from the which is fetched from the already made OTBI report. So these are the topics I wanted to cover today. We'll cover few more topics. I think I'll cover e-text and few more C-read, how to do C reports and stuff in the next lives.